Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and I wanted to share this with you because it's been on my mind, and with all the distractions happening right now, and with everything else unfolding around us in the sense of escalations, we have to keep a couple of things in mind in order to progress forward and understand where we stand in the sense of why we're preparing, okay? We have the issues going on with Eastern Europe, we have the issues going on over near China, and we have the issues going on here domestically. And when you start to look at all of them individually, it can seem like we have these foreign adversaries that are poking at us from all over the world, and that we may find ourselves in a hot conflict because of the actions of these different entities. But unfortunately, when you go back to the origin source of a lot of these issues, everything points back to us. And when I say us, I don't mean you and me, I mean the United States of America's government. I don't necessarily mean the country at large, but definitely those who are in elected positions that make the decisions that are pushing us towards this inevitable conflict that we're all preparing for. And understand that everything we do creates enemies, right? And everything we do will eventually have some sort of backlash to it. And we've been using our military might and our economic power to basically do whatever we want for decades at this point. It was only a matter of time until the rest of the world finally said, enough's enough. Even if they're not necessarily properly prepared or geared up to deal with us in the sense of some sort of military conflict, that doesn't mean they're not gonna give it a go. Because at this point in time, you can see what's happening around the world and all the unraveling that's going on. And obviously, we're involved with quite a bit of it. And it's really just coming down to whoever pulls the trigger first, right? So understand, when you look at Senators Lindsey Graham and Sidney Blumenthal up there on stage talking about resolutions in order to basically promote the idea of a nuclear conflict if anything happens over in Ukraine right now, well, you have to understand that those same people are involved with all kinds of other stuff that has happened around the world that has resulted in terrible results. And when I say that, what I mean is, I don't know, the funding of ISIS, the funding of the Taliban, the wars that have been perpetuated throughout the Middle East over the last few decades. I mean, all this goes back to those same people. So of course they want us to get into further conflicts. Of course the lobbying dollars that push them to want to be involved with conflict would profit generously if we were to get into an actual hot kinetic World War III type scenario. And then we also have the issues that countries like China and Russia are facing in the sense of population issues, in the sense of basically failing in many ways, maybe not in the sense that you would be able to easily tell from a bird's eye point of view, but regardless, everyone on the planet right now has an expiration date in many ways. When it comes to countries and when it comes to governmental systems, a lot of these countries have in many ways run their course. And many could argue that even the United States is on its way of running its course based on what's happening culturally and societally here right now. But countries like Russia and China seem to understand that maybe they are nearing that end. And it's possible that they might make a last-ditch effort to avoid fading away into nothingness. So I'm preparing for all the most basic things: natural disasters, economic failures, everything else we do here in the preparedness community. Other pandemics that might actually spring up and catch us off guard and probably hurt us a lot more than the last one based on the cry wolf situation. But one thing I'm definitely preparing for is the idea that these countries might be willing to go to that next level of provocation, escalation, and conflict if they don't see any other way out. And as of right now, they probably don't have another way out. I mean, in all honesty, if we say no to China absorbing Taiwan, that basically cuts them off from the future, right? They don't have the ability to access the level of nanochip technology that they would need to create the quantum computers that can eventually provide them with the AI that they're trying to develop in order to beef up their military might. And if they can't beef up their military might, then they're going to continually always lag behind us, right? And then with Russia dealing with the Ukraine situation, all the money and the military hardware and everything we're throwing at Ukraine was probably somewhat unexpected by the Kremlin, which means they've had to waste way more resources and create a lot more domestic issues for themselves in their own country as well in the process. And all of it goes back to us right here. I mean, we could easily just mind our own business if we wanted to, right? And say, well, just if Taiwan's yours, then prove it, right? If Ukraine's yours, then prove it. But we could also easily stop these things from moving forward proactively if we actually wanted them to end. So if we actually wanted the Ukraine conflict to end, we could technically end it. Would the outcome be good? Probably not, but we could definitely end it. And the same goes for China, Taiwan. If we just didn't want that to happen no matter what, we could just make it not happen. So you have to understand that we are definitely the driving force as to why these conflicts are occurring, why they are ongoing, why they don't have a solution in sight, and why it's likely they'll get worse. Because from what I can tell, based on our government and the officials who are supposedly working in our best interests, they're steering the ship right into the direction of this World War III type scenario, regardless of the consequences. And when it comes to the possibility of nuclear weapons being used, they know that's a risk. It's a calculated risk to them. We are part of a calculation. They have acceptable amounts of casualties in their strategy that they're willing to absorb in order to move us forward. It is what it is. I can't really do much about it. Neither can you, but we can at least have the awareness to understand why we prepare for the things we prepare for. It's not just because, what if Russia gets mad and nukes us? No, it's what if we keep doing what we're doing and the consequences eventually present themselves? Because in all reality, I think we all know that that's pretty much what's going on here, especially when you start listening to these people talk about their plans and the restrictions, limitations, and resolutions they want to put into place in order to basically ensure that things will get worse, especially when the concept of a falsified attack is extremely likely. I mean, if Ukraine knows we will retaliate with the full force of NATO if Russia does anything in regards to detonating a nuclear device or destroying a nuclear power facility, then it's probably in their best interest to do so. And the same can be said about Taiwan. If Taiwan's actually worried about China just taking over one day, they're going to want us to draw our own red line for that as well, so that they have it in their playbook in order to abuse that red line when the time comes. And then you, as someone who just wants to be prepared and take care of yourself and your family, should be prepared for the wartime economy that would ensue thereafter, and be prepared for any of the dangers that evolve because of that situation. If you don't think there are things that would happen on US soil domestically because of a conflict with some of these countries, then you're very optimistic. But what I will say is, even if nothing was to happen here domestically on American soil, something could definitely happen in the cyberspace realm that could ruin your day. Now, couldn't it? I'm sure many of you rely on electronic transactions in order to do business in general, right? So there's a lot of things that we should be ready for. And you got to just do what makes sense for you. Am I working on getting more self-sufficient? Of course. And I think it would behoove everyone to do the same. Does everyone have the same opportunities or the same level of, let's just say, resources in order to do those things? No. So don't be unrealistic about your capabilities either. But then have contingency plans in place for what to do if the things that you currently have regarding resources and supplies don't last long enough or don't provide you with what you actually need during those times. And these are all things we can do now. Now is the time to do these things because we actually have the time to do them. I'm on my 100-yard range today, and yeah, it's only 100 yards. I know, I'd like it to be longer, but I have a 100-yard range, so I really can't complain too much because I'm sure many of you have no range. But either way, I'm out here and I'm just making sure that the old 308 here is ready to go and can reach out a little bit further if need be. And if you don't have time behind a bolt action, and you don't have time behind a gas gun, and you don't have time behind different cartridges or calibers or platforms, then you might as well only have the one you actually use, because you have to practice with every single piece of gear you have, especially if it's a mission-specific piece of gear, like this rifle right here, which would be relegated to anything regarding long range. And when I mean long range, I don't just mean the activities of making sure a threat can't get any closer, but I also mean things like hunting, right? So, I mean, this is a perfect hunting rifle. It's a Ruger American Predator in 308. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it was designed for. So, I just don't like the way things are going. And based on our track record, it's only a matter of time till we find ourselves in a conflict. And the closer we get to 2024 and the ridiculousness of this election cycle that we're going to be faced with, the fact that we have a current president who's running again that literally couldn't do math, I guarantee you, and the front runner of the main opposing party is being federally charged with multiple felony counts. Regardless of the validity of it, it's happening. This is the circus we're being presented with. And if you don't think that's going to create its own level of chaos, and you don't think that our adversaries are going to leverage that chaos based on the fact that it's ridiculous, all of it's ridiculous, then I also think you're being optimistic once again. So all these things are major considerations to keep in mind. Now, I'll mention, always need to, and I always like to, biggest supporter of the channel is Midway USA. Being able to get out here, shoot some rifles, get out on the 100-yard range, right, and try to see if I can reach out a little bit further than usual. Feels good. Can't go wrong. So a big thanks to Midway USA for helping me out with all these things, and especially when it comes to, I don't know, optics like this one. But the reason I'm out here and the reason I'm doing these things is because you can see the writing on the wall. And next year is going to suck. I don't know what else to say about it. It is not going to be a good year. A lot of bad stuff is likely to happen. And the current party that's in power has no interest in letting go of that power. And so do you think that they may try to ensure that there is not a transfer of power after the election? Do you think they might try to use historical precedent in order to maintain that power during that time? I don't know. What has worked in the past? Probably going to war. Do you think that would work again? Yeah, probably. Do you think it would be in their best interest to possibly enter a war before the election? Yeah, probably. And do you think that we are the main reason that these conflicts are escalating and ongoing versus not just solving them if we really wanted to actually solve them? I mean, you let me know in the comments below. I mean, just tell me your thoughts, because I'm just sharing these thought processes with everybody. This isn't me trying to tell you this is exactly what's happening. This is me trying to open up your thought process to these concepts and ideas so that you can better strategize for the outcome of them. If the inevitable future results in a hot conflict with a major superpower, then your preparedness strategy might shift compared to what it is right now based on the winter storm of Texas in 2021 that you lived through, right? Because right now your top priority might be getting a generator and having a space heater. But if inevitable conflict is on the horizon with China and possibly Russia, then maybe you should be figuring out how to learn basic communication skills and tactics. I'm not sure, you know, these are considerations I wish I didn't have to make. I'll be honest with everybody. If you want to know my honest preference when it comes to the way things are going and the way things I'd like them to go, my honest preference would be to have to not prepare at all. I would like to have all my preps just never be used ever for anything, in all honesty. If I didn't have to ever open up a bucket of food, that would be my preference. And if I didn't ever have to lose out on any current amenities that we have, that would be my preference. Do I enjoy having the internet and watching a movie or playing some video games or something every now and then? Yeah, I do. Do I enjoy digging holes and planting plants? Not really. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it's just not my favorite thing to do. Do I think that it's a valuable thing to do, and do I think it's a good idea? Well, of course, because it would be stupid of me to think anything else otherwise. But I would prefer to be able to just pick up the phone and order a pizza for the rest of my life, rather than relying on my preps and relying on my ability to produce my own food supply into the infinite future based on whatever outcome these people decide we're going to have. And they are the ones that are going to decide this outcome, not us necessarily. When I say necessarily, I mean, yeah, we always have some say in what's happening, don't get me wrong, but I don't have a lot of influence when it comes to how we interact with other geopolitical adversaries. So, and if I did, things might be going a little differently. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I have to remind myself that I'm just a regular dude, but then again, so are these idiots on Capitol Hill. They're just regular dudes. They are regular women. They are regular people that, went to college, maybe have a decent grasp on how to problem solve or do public speaking. Great. Seems like a lot of people on YouTube have both those skills as well. So I think we undercut ourselves quite a bit when it comes to being just regular people and looking at these decision makers in Washington, D.C. and being like, well, you know, they're the most qualified because they have that degree from a law school. Don't care. Doesn't mean much when everything's going badly and nobody can accomplish anything now, does it? So just get ready, you know, the best you can. That doesn't mean you got to buy a ton of stuff. That doesn't mean you got to have all the most fancy gear. That doesn't mean you have to have 10, 15, 25 years worth of food. It just means you should probably be ready for things to get weird. And I think any survivalist's best skill set would be the ability to adapt. Because if you can't adapt to a changing environment, then you're not going to make it. You need to be willing to sacrifice, and you need to be able to accommodate the obscure. And from somebody who at one point lived in a warehouse and also lived in a van, oh yeah, that's right. I can tell you that you can make it work with some uncomfortable situations. Doesn't mean that they're great, but it does mean you can do it. So just do it. I think I ranted long enough. Look, if you need anything else from me, magicprepper.com. It's always there. There's like discounts and stuff all over that website. I don't know if anybody even knows that. So you should probably know that. If you want to go there, go look. There's all these like promo codes, all kinds of stuff, right? And there's also a contact form if you want to say, hey. Subscribestar, it's a great place to go too. It's $5 a month, but I try to do exclusive content there, and I also have giveaways and stuff. So check that out if you like, and just get out and do the things. I mean, I'm not even the biggest fan of shooting bolt actions, to be honest. I mean, I have gas guns, and they're more fun. And I mean, honestly, it's what I'm going to probably grab if I actually need something for some of the stuff that we just discussed. But these have their place. This thing is quieter. It has great accuracy. It can reach out. And this is like my budget long range build. This optic was $750. The stock I think is like $300, but the rifle itself was like $500. So yeah, all in total, you're talking like $1,500 because you want a decent optic if you're going to be reaching out. But the rifle itself being $500, I don't know if you can beat that. It's a decent rifle. Good job, Ruger. Glad you guys stopped caring about magazine capacity limits and all that stuff. Google it.